Most people think that Panama hats are from, well, Panama, but they're actually from Ecuador. The hats are woven from toquilla straw, and there's a lot of stories about where they got their name from, but one of them is that the workers during the construction of the Panama Canal wore them to protect themselves from the tropical sun. Even though their moniker has a blue-collar background, Panama hats are commonly used by fashion designers and often seen on the heads of celebrities. While covering this story, I followed the process of how a hat is made from the straw to a finished hat. But like any good story, I found it's not just a story about how to make a cool fashion accessory, it's a story about people. It's a story about economics and globalization and how Western fashion trends and what we think looks nice on our heads because we want to look like Madonna or Justin Timberlake directly affects campesinos in South America who seem like they couldn't be any farther from that world but are actually closely connected to us. All hats, whether they sell for $10 or $10,000, begin with the same toquilla straw. The straw is grown on plantations in the coastal province of Manabí and then brought to Cuenca in the Sierra. Then in Cuenca, the straw is prepared and treated with chemicals to bleach and cure it, and then sold to weavers in the local straw markets, like this one in Sigsig, just outside of Cuenca. The weavers buy enough straw to weave a hat for just under $2, and it takes them about a day to a day and a half to weave the hat, which they can then sell for between $3, which is a really low price, but probably not more than $10 depending on the style and quality of the hat. This same hat, once finished at the factory, can be exported to the U.S. and sold for $70 or more. Because of the low pay, most weavers just do it while going about their day in their free time, or they end up giving it up for more profitable work. An example of this is Dr. Luis Sarmiento Leon. He's actually a physician with the Seguridad Social del Campesino, which is the rural health service in Ecuador, and he and his wife, Degsi Caivanagua, prepare and sell straw at the Sigsig market where they live as a side job for extra money. It's typical in the Ecuadorian hat industry that the producers at the beginning of the hat-making process, the weavers, are a fractured freelance group of workers who pass the knowledge down from generation to generation. Fernando Moreno knows this, and since he's the manager of Serrano Hat, a large hat finishing and exporting business in Cuenca, his business depends on a regular supply of hat bodies. Fernando is meeting with a group of women who want to form a weaving cooperative, and he wants to cut out the middlemen who buy the hats from the weavers so that the women can work directly with the factory and he can pay them more. Fernando tells them his business concerns, like having a consistent supply of hats and that the women learn other weave styles so they can produce different styles of hats at different times of the year that correspond with seasonal demands in the U.S. and Europe. The women like the idea of getting more money since many cannot afford to weave anymore, but they're skeptical and the meeting ends in a sort of catch-22. Fernando needs a special kind of workforce to pay them better, and the workforce needs to be paid better to even exist. The hat bodies come into the factory brown, with extra strings hanging off, and not really looking like what you and I know as a Panama hat. In the factory, they bleach the hats and dry them in the sun to give them the white color of the classic Panama hat. Then they iron the hats and put them into a heated press that gives them their shape, and finally the bands and fabric accoutrements are added and the hats are ready to export. Today, these hats are known worldwide, and Ecuador isn't the only country that produces them. It seems almost tragic that Panama hats are probably Ecuador's most famous export. Even though they've been doing it for hundreds of years, most people don't even know they're from there. So far, Ecuadorian hat just doesn't have the same ring.